What's going up, YouTube? Welcome to another edition of Tips on the Beat with D.Royul, where I, D.Royul, will make a beat, and I'm going to give you 5 insights into how I made it to hopefully inspire you to make some new fresh music outside of whatever creative box you may have been in your own life. Today's beat is something that came up when I was messing around with some bass line sounds, and I had a desire to make something that was a little smooth and I guess closer to West Coast. One thing I try not to do is put whatever music I'm making in a box, even though I can admit that it may have been influenced from some type of genre. But you never want to just be closed into a genre by itself. You want to allow your creativity to flow. However it's going, why not go with it? So, as we jump right in, let's see what came about, starting with a bass line. Alright guys, tip number 1. Don't be afraid to go outside a genre that you may be influenced by. Now, I started off doing this West Coast kind of beat, but I feel like even what I'm doing already by layering bass lines isn't exactly what is considered either traditional or new school West Coast. But that's where I started from. And just because I started from there doesn't mean I can't flow with what I'm feeling in this track. So don't let a genre limit you to what type of track you're making or whatever flow you're feeling from the music that you're laying down. Alright guys, tip number 2. Play around with the different size of bar loops that you use. There's 4, 8, 16, and things like that. And what you saw me earlier, I did a 4-bar drum loop. The hi-hat, kick, snare. But I played a synth that was in 8 bars. And what that means is for 8 bars, I played the entire progression of whatever melody or notes that I'm playing. And that's in contrast to 4 bars. So as we know, 4 plus 4 is 8. And I copy over the 4-bar drum loop so that it happens twice, or it loops through twice, with me playing through something in 8 bars. So play around with that kind of stuff. I mean, if you want to do something for 16 bars, or play an instrument through the entire verse, doing stuff like that makes you think outside the box. It helps you to see this as more than just, alright, I've created this 4-bar loop, let me copy it and paste it. Because there's nothing wrong with loops, but overusing them in just a specific format or equation becomes too formulaic. So mess around with the different sizes of them, see what you can create out of that. Alright everybody, tip number 3. I urge you to learn about melody, learn about notes, and learn as much as you can about music theory. It doesn't mean that you have to go to school or take a class in it, but you can see anything on YouTube these days. And if you want to understand how someone who knows how to read music or who understands music on a theory level, this will help you understand how to make tracks dynamic with just a bit of understanding of what scales are, a bit of understanding of what songs go into a scale and how scales affect the notes that sound good in a type of key that you're playing, and actually understanding what keys are. All these kinds of things, when you look into learning a bit of music theory, even if it's just a bit, it'll help you understand what you're creating, and it'll give you a bit more of an open door, or an open template, or an open palette, or whatever I want to call it, for you to be able to make music that's more than just you playing around on a keyboard. Like, you'll understand it from a mental standpoint. All right, number 4, minor changes make a major difference. What you just saw me do was I was playing the same chord. And like I said in the previous tip, learning a bit about music theory will help you to understand why they're the exact same chord. But what I did was transpose the note, meaning I moved the bottom note to the higher octave of that chord about 1, 2, 3 times. And by just doing that, it made it seem like something was happening in the track when I really was playing the same notes over and over again. But a minor change by inverting the chord up and down, it creates a brand new feeling in the song, and something minor like that makes a major change in the track. And the 5th tip is, don't restrict yourself to the time signature or to whatever loop structure you're doing. I talked earlier about 4 bar, 8 bars, 16 bars. But what I just did right now was a 6 bar transition loop. Now clearly that doesn't go directly into 4, 8, and 16 when we know our math. But it's something I was feeling. I felt like it worked well, and this is the pre-chorus, or transitioning into the chorus. And I thought it worked well, so because I felt it, I did it. If you feel like doing it, try it out. If it doesn't work, delete it. But there's no reason to think that it has to be what you've been doing this entire time just because you've been working with the 4, 8, 16 kind of concept. Changing things up in the middle like that make the person listen. Once again, it engages your listener's ear, and it keeps them intentionally listening to what's going on in the track. And there it is, guys. Another episode of Tips on the Beat with D.Royul is in the books. Let's review the 5 things that I talked about in this episode. 1, don't be afraid to go outside the genre that you start with. If you start with a genre and you want to emulate what it is, but you're feeling things that are outside what make it this normal sound, so what? Do what you're feeling. Creativity flows in many different ways, and you never know where a sound or a vibe is going to take you. Number 2, play around with different types of loops. You got 4 bar, 8 bar, 16 bar, 12 bar. Everything doesn't have to be in that one count. And there's nothing wrong with loops. But when you mix and match, it helps create a diverse track. Number 3, learn about melody, learn about harmony, learn about musical theory. This will help you to be able to make tracks more diverse and bring you outside of whatever your current knowledge is. You can learn everything on YouTube, as you can see. So take some time to look out to see what the basics are. Look into the basics so that you can have a little more knowledge of how to make your tracks better, you know? Number 4, minor changes make a major difference. Changing one note can make your entire verse or your entire chorus more diverse. It can make it sound different. It can make it pique the ear of the listener. And that's the thing that you always want to make sure that you're doing in these tracks. And number 5, don't be afraid to go outside regular time signature stuff. When you're doing 4/4 or 3/4 or something like that, having a change in there that's not what you typically were doing, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. This is your track. You're creating it. If you feel like doing it, do what you like doing. One of the best things you can do is make music that you want to hear. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. Remember, creativity has no boundaries. Use your God-given gifts and talents to make something fresh today. But remember, make sure you're having fun while you're doing it. See you next time.